Hey, welcome back. Tim's IT Straight Talk. Tim Warner here. What was I going to tell you about? Nothing like having your brain go blank on camera, you know? Oh, right. Developing a worldview. Right. I was wondering whether to put worldview in quotes. I don't want to be like somebody you might see on Twitter who uses quotes incorrectly, but at the same time, I wanted to note that what I'm about to discuss is simply my own opinion. And it's born from my experience, and I'm sharing because maybe you find it helpful, maybe you won't. I do hope, above all else, that I don't strike you as being, like I'm trying to be some kind of authority or anything like that. I hope I don't come across in any way, shape, or form as prescriptive or proscriptive. No, that's not what I want in the least. Just sharing experience here. Take it cafeteria style. Take what you want and leave the rest. Anyway, back to the original subject, developing a worldview. Yeah, this is really, really important to me. I'm not talking about worldview in maybe a philosophical context or something, a definition you'd read in an encyclopedia. I'm talking about how you look at the relation between yourself and your fellow human beings. To give you some context, I grew up in upstate New York, very old school. Most of my extended family, at least the men, were railroad men, as they were called, because I grew up next to the Conrail train station and rail yards. Anyway, all of this is to say that growing up, I had a pretty insular worldview. We didn't do much. Well, we did a lot of traveling growing up as a family, but it was all either within the US or maybe the very southern regions of Canada. So I guess I did leave the country, leave the USA as I was a kid. We didn't even really consider Canada to be another country at the time. It was just an hour away or whatever, you know. But all of this is to say, by the time I got to college, when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I had a pretty filtered view of the world. Pretty much being a TV kid, a Gen Xer, I grew up with MTV, and we're not going to take it and all this happy stuff. But I really didn't have an appreciation for people with different backgrounds and cultures because of my insular conditions in that old school suburban neighborhood in Syracuse, New York. I was fortunate to go to Cornell University for my post-high school, college, university studies. And that was a big tweak to my worldview because I was living in the dorm intimately, cheek by jowl, with people from India, from China, from all Europe, literally all over the globe. Because fortunately, Cornell is an internationally known university, so it attracts students from all over the world. And I enjoyed developing these friendships and getting to know a bit about them, their families, their culture, where they grew up. But, you know, looking back on it, it was all still through the lens of my own bedroom, as it were. I mean, Cornell is only like an hour and a half drive away from Syracuse. So even though I was at this university with people all over the world, living very intimately with them in the dorms, I still was in my own backyard in a sense because I was in upstate New York. I mean, it's just the way it was. Different people have different opportunities. I'll tell you, things change in a family tree. The first plane trip that my daughter Zoe took, she was a newborn. We took her out either at the 30-day mark or very close to it, and she's been to several countries. She's traveled on just about every medium there is on this planet, including submarine. So I'm glad to be changing that. But even after university, I thought I had a worldview, a worldly view, maybe would be a better way to say it. I mean, I did as much as I could. I guess it never registered to me at that time, being a younger man, that some of the people that I was at school with came from more privileged backgrounds yet, and they were doing world travel. And in some cases, it was old hat to them. It was just all they had ever known. So it wasn't, overseas travel wasn't a big deal. And I guess, didn't even have it on my radar, the idea of going across the pond. I would have loved it, but it just wasn't even an idea. I was thrilled when in 1997, when I got into IT and my career started to take off, I began traveling around the US as a traveling tech trainer. And I was thrilled just to see other states in the US. I was pretty up there in age before I got across the pond. Almost embarrassed to say how old I was. I think I was at least in my 30s, if not late 30s. So it took me a while, and I'm still not a really worldly guy. I have a lot of destinations still on my bucket list, and as a matter of fact, I'm really looking forward. In a couple weeks, I'm taking a 2-week vacation. Just me, I'm traveling solo to Eastern Poland. I want to pay my respects to all of the Holocaust victims. It's something I've wanted to do since I was a teenager. And that trip gives me a lot of comfort to think about, because I've found over the last several years where I have had opportunities to go to other countries and so on, that I'm finally developing a real deep worldview. And you know what the biggest and loudest lesson is in my interactions? And frankly, as a teacher, I've interacted with people from just about every culture in the world, either physically and or virtually. So that's more to it. But the biggest lesson of all is deceptively simple. You'll probably be thinking, duh, Tim, this is something I've known all my life. But I didn't. I just relatively recently came to the realization, here it is, that we humans are exactly alike at base. Like frighteningly, especially, the similarity will be more profound with your neighbors because you're literally in the same environment all the time. But even somebody on the other side of the globe, a Kiwi in New Zealand, for example, if we were to sit down in a room together, I guarantee we're relating, if nothing else, on a fundamental human level. Like making jokes about, now I have arthritis, my body is starting to break down, the over-the-hill stuff. Anybody in any culture can relate to that. I know this sounds like so Mickey Mouse, but this notion of how exact we humans are, if you strip away the, genetic influence, cultural peer influence, geographic influence, and just look at a human being as a fellow animal, the similarity is astounding. Not just, of course, physiological and physical stuff, although that's commonality, but just the common questions. What's the meaning of life, for example? What is the purpose of my life? What am I interested in? Who am I attracted to? These sorts of things. The fact that it's so universal means that I'm not a foreigner no matter where I am on the globe. And I'm going to take that with me to Poland in a couple weeks, knowing that I'm going to be there alone, but I'm not alone in any way, shape, or form. I don't mean to get all sentimental, and I certainly hope I don't sound sanctimonious. I'm just want to pass on this realization because it's topical. And, ultimately the purpose of this YouTube series is not to have flashy 1080p or 4K or 8K resolution on my webcam and perfect key lighting and little insets and all of that. That's fine. That's good. But my whole purpose in this YouTube series was to have it be so raw that you're literally seeing the fruits of somebody just sitting down at their desk, flipping on the recorder and going for 10 minutes, and then with no post-production, pop it up on YouTube. That's my idea. So I'm hoping that there's some, goodness in terms of content. That's obviously most important. But I feel pretty strongly that this spontaneous and raw approach may improve your enjoyment maybe of these videos or your willingness to consume them. I know willingness is a big deal for me. Because they're so spontaneous, because there's absolutely no scripting, and there's limited, if any, forethought. And that's by design. All right, so that's enough. Close enough for horseshoes as far as the 10-minute mark goes. Thanks, I'll see you next time.